Yo, what's good, Joe? It's YAHU KANAN. I'm here with the GFCC team for the GFCC Global Podcast. Sonny, how you doing today, bro?
I'm feeling abundant and shiny.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We're glad to have that abundant, shiny energy with us today. Amrita, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good and flowy in the water
Absolutely.
element.
Yes, sir. Glad to have that water with us as well. My boy X. X, how are you feeling today?
I am feeling graceful, very serene.
I love to hear that. Serenity is something I value very much in my own life as well, bro. And then we got my man Z right here. Z, how are you feeling today?
Yo, what it do? What's popping? Hey, I'm feeling blissful as always. Good to be here. Good to hear from y'all. Ready for the convo? Yeah, let's get it.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to have all of my people here with me today, and I'm glad to speak on this topic. Today, we will be talking about different experiences that we've had, certain things that have very much changed our perspective during our spiritual journey. And I kind of want to give the mic to Z to start off because Z is the most ready to talk about a few recent experiences that she's had that have very much pushed her into her power.
Yes. So this recent experience, it kind of forced me to shift my perspective on how to position myself, and just to kind of give y'all like the backstory. So naturally, I'm a very energetic person. I'm a generator in human design. And it's nothing for me to show up and do what the spirits are asking me to do. I'm very obedient when it comes to that aspect of things. And, I'm gonna be very honest. They told me like, hey, like you're gonna be doing your classes, you're gonna be showing up, and they didn't necessarily tell me what I'm gonna get in return, but they just telling me to do it, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I would love to do that. I love doing qigong, and I love just being able to share my experiences, my wisdom with people, and being able to just be a guiding light to those that need it, especially.
Hmm.
And I started noticing how like there was a level of reciprocation that I wasn't seeing. And anytime like I don't get reciprocated, it triggers
Hmm.
me. It do
Hmm.
be triggering me. I'm not gonna lie. And
Hmm.
honestly, there's so many different ways on how we can receive the energy back. But as far as I'm concerned, like reciprocity comes in different forms. And yes, it can come through the many different love languages, for example. Like you can say it in words, you can say it in actions, you can say it in so many different ways, right? But in the time of my life right now, I kind of have a perception of how I want to receive and what it is that I want to receive. And I put that energy out. And I don't necessarily expect certain things. I just know that it's important to project my energy and to be very specific about the things that I do want. You feel me? So when
Yep.
I wasn't seeing that, I was like, oh, this is triggering. Oh no, I feel the need to like completely just bring my energy back and not even be like low key involved for real. So I'm like, okay, let me just take a moment, take me a little break, and just come back and see how you feel, right? So I do
Hmm.
that, right? And in the meantime of all of this, the spirits and my ancestors talking to me about positioning myself, how I position myself. You know, you carry a lot of energy. You know, you carry a lot of value. So in terms of how you show up and where you show up, most importantly, is going to be very important in order for you to discern where, when, and where that reciprocity is going to come back. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's that makes a lot of sense. And then they started showing me Genie, and they said, look at how he structures his information. Look at how he structures everything that he does when it comes to what he teaches. And I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. He has his Patreon and he has like his YouTube channel. He got his other social media platforms. And I'm like, wow, these are all his own personal foundations. You feel me? Because the server, the community we in, this is like multiple different foundations that we have here, and
Hmm.
we act as like bridges, right? We act as like pillars.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, if I feel like my personal collective isn't in the community yet, I need to go focus on building my own personal shit. So let me fucking focus exactly how Jeannie doing it. Let me pour into my YouTube. Let me pour into my social media platforms. Let me make sure I'm going on live and I'm talking to the people and I'm connecting with the people. So that way, when I do show up in the community, that same collective is there for me. And that's kind of just how I was seeing it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the perspective shift that I had when it came to uh, what I got from being triggered by not receiving the things that I know for a fact I'm very deserving of. And I
Hmm.
also know this, like, I'm not for everybody, you feel me? I completely understand that. And I don't expect everybody to give back to me. But I do expect it to some form because I know
Yeah,
that I'm here for a reason and reciprocity is very important. So
exactly.
that's why I'm like, okay, there has to be, I have to reposition myself and where I put my energy at. And when I do show up, you know, just know for a fact that there's going to be more people to come that resonate with you because you already built the personal foundation for them to come over. So I'm like, okay, bet. I love that. I love
Most
that.
definitely. And I'm so glad that you kind of took that energy and transmuted it into progress and the drive and the fire energy in order to make that happen. And I'm seeing a lot of progress from you and a lot of this sort of community building work that you've been doing, especially with going live, jumping into other people's lives, just really like making yourself known inside of the community. And we love to see that from you. I want to ask you a question when it comes to this. What difference do you notice in the way that you perceive your interactions with others inside the server, now that you've changed this perspective as well?
I love that question. So, and that's something I also had to sit with and be like, okay, are you really expecting certain things that that they can't necessarily give? Because that's another thing. Like some people, they just don't necessarily resonate in the way. And like I said, I do have like a specific thing that I am projecting out that I want to attract. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm projecting the wrong things onto them. Maybe they're not the target audience. They not the people that's meant to show up and give back to me in that way. So I'm like, am I putting
Mhm.
unnecessary, unnecessary expectations on these people? Let me just chill. Let me just let me just go back to
Yeah,
like 'cause at the beginning, when I first started doing classes, I was just doing it for fun. Like it was just something that I genuinely enjoyed. But I started to notice, okay, if I was expecting too much or if I was putting unnecessary expectations on them, then it started to become this thing where I may grow resentful. And I definitely don't want that because I'm like, bro, we a community, we family. Hell no. Hell no.
yeah,
You feel me? So, yeah, I love that question. And now I'm able to like show up in a way where it's like, okay, reminding myself what like reminding myself of values of and moving with integrity, you feel me, being able to still show up and show love. Like I genuinely love what I do and I'm very grateful that I get to do the things that I do. And not only that, like I'm so grateful to even be able to connect with a community, a sense of community and people, and being able to bring certain things to them that's going to help them down on their path down the line. That's the whole point, right? Just being able to
exactly.
be a positive impact in people's lives. That's my main focus above all things. So me being able to come back to that has been very helpful.
Most definitely, because you're almost coming to that point of origin and moving in a much more heart-based way. Because we do want to be compensated and satiated and gain sustenance from the energy that we put out. But really, it is our heart energy and that love frequency, and really doing things with that sense of purpose from that love frequency that allow us to get into that flow state, so that we can receive what it is that we want. And if we feel like a collective isn't reflecting what it is that we want or giving us what we need, it's because that aspect of ourselves that we'll receive from them is kind of pointing us in a different direction. Like, you know what, instead of focusing here, let's put our energy towards something that's more so centered around you so that you can actually contribute to this space that you want to pour back into you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Spot on.
Exactly.
Love that. Love that.
For sure. I have one more question for you. How are you going to use this experience to be a better leader inside the server in the future, being that now you kind of understand your needs, as far as like your sustenance and how you need to be poured back into on the business side, but also getting back into that more joyful teacher, mentor aspect of yourself and just wanting to help the community?
I say above all, the most important thing is what you were stating about uh always operating from your heart, right? Always
Hmm.
coming, always moving in a state of love. And that's like the most powerful thing about it is being able to remain in your heart chakra and remaining pure in a sense.
Yes.
Like and not having too many expectations, you feel me? Especially like if like the experiences that you're currently going through, or the circumstances that you're currently going through, if that's like kind of sleeping through into your heart, then it can kind of make you move in a certain way that doesn't really align with you for real. So like I would say that just kind of going back to what feels right for me and what I know is true for me.
Most definitely returning back to that soul resonance or that inner knowing. And that's really all that matters. And it encompasses everything that you need to move forward in the way that you need to. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. That was good.
Of course. We're going to move on to my boy X right now. X, how have you, or what it is that you have experienced in the past, or even in the present, that has kind of changed your perspective or shown you a certain aspect of a spiritual truth that you weren't aware of before?
Yeah, so definitely my experiences with duality and being forced to operate in not only my like light polarity, my dark polarity, but my quote unquote good and evil polarities, and also my masculine and feminine polarities.
Mhm.
More so lately, it's been masculine and feminine, learning how to balance all of those. But the first thing I truly learned was how to balance light and dark, or good and evil. I'm really say good and evil, even though those terms are very loose. You know, it's very based on your perspective and they're subjective terms. But you know, we operate from light and dark all the time. That's like second nature. Learning how to be deliberately good or deliberately evil is it's like a useful skill, you know, especially for a spiritual person, right? And that may sound confusing, but let me cook.
I got you, bro.
When I was around 18, I was kicked out of my mother's house,
Hmm.
and it was because I dropped out of school, and she was not down with that, right? So I was basically on my own, and I had to find a place to stay. The only person that would take me in was my cousin, and my cousin was involved in various, you know, criminal activities and you know, things of the negative nature, things of a quote unquote evil nature, right? Now,
Yeah,
while staying with him, I really had to focus on not letting myself be compromised around those energies, because he was actually a underneath all of the external shit, he was a good person. You know, he was very spiritual. We would talk about, you know, greater concepts of reality together. And he helped me see the good in doing evil, right?
yeah,
Not the good for all necessarily, even though there is that too. More so the good for self. Sometimes you have to be selfish, you know? And that's something that I learned from him. He was a very free person, did whatever he wanted to do. Nobody could tell him not to do anything. And those were some of the biggest lessons I learned from him. Um, you know, I was a person who had boundaries. I grew up with boundaries. I would color between the lines or color within the lines, you know?
yes, sir.
And there was a certain level of programming that my spiritual awakening prior to that could not undo. I had to learn how to go beyond that programming to truly realize my all encompassing nature. And a part of that was doing the things deliberately to be not necessarily of malevolence to others, but to be of service to self. But when you're doing service to self, a lot of times you can end up doing malevolence to others just by, you know, causality. There was also a lot of my blind spots started to creep up on me. You know, I grew up predisposed to addiction and, you know, lustful behaviors, that very compulsive energy.
Yeah,
So those were things that I also dealt with at that time too. You know, for example, when I was living with him, it wasn't just us two, it was also us and these three other girls. And two of the girls were OnlyFans models.
right.
And one of them was like, you know what I'm saying? She wanted me, you know what I'm saying? Basically, I'm just going to put it simple. Yeah, she wanted me.
Basically,
And
bro, she wanted
she
me,
would,
bro.
I'm not going to explain all the things that she would do to let me know that she wanted me, but it was very egregious things.
Yeah,
Um, you know, and it would get more and more severe over time. Um, I'll tell you all the details off camera, but
for
it
sure.
got to the point where I couldn't stay there anymore. Like it got to the point where I was like, this shit is crazy. I gotta like self-sabotage this living situation. And at the cost of, you know, having a place to stay, I risked my stability. You know, I opted basically to be homeless rather than live there and deal with that, you know, very lustful and malevolent energy. Mind you, like these girls were witches too. They weren't just like models or anything. They were witches. They
Oh,
would
shit.
delve in the black magic and all of that shit. It was just a bunch of dark energy going on. I was a little baby wizard trying to find my way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I had to learn how to step into my dark polarity while being with them, learning how to be selfish, learning how to fend for myself while not falling into the depths of the darkness that they were consumed by. And, separating myself from that living situation helped me a lot. But there was a period of like wilderness, you know what I'm saying? The concept of being in the wilderness, you're alone fending for yourself. That was me. Like I was homeless and it was me and my cousin. And that was a better situation than living in um that living situation with everybody, but it was still very less than the quality of living that I would want to live by today.
of
um
course.
I had to steal a lot of times. I had to do things that I wouldn't normally do today because I am at a position to be able to make sure that my needs are met at all times. But I can't say that if you're ever put in a situation where the odds are stacked against you, I could never tell you like, oh, don't break the rules or don't, go outside the lines. Don't get outside of the, societal construct. Like I would never tell somebody that. And that's something that I had to learn. When you are rising your consciousness outside of the collective consciousness of humans, you kind of need to step out of bounds in a sense and know that certain moral principles that have been created by humans do not apply to you. Ultimately, what I ended up doing and growing from in that situation, I ended up going back within the confines and the structure that I grew up with, going back to my roots. I didn't want to steal. That felt very wrong to me. I didn't like taking from others. So what I learned how to do is provide for others, right? That way I'm always provided for. Now, even though I have went back to my roots, I'm still in a mentality where I know I don't have to, I don't have to color in the lines. Like if I need to, I'll do a selfish act, and that's one of my biggest strengths to this day. I'm a giver. Y'all know me as a very generous person, you
That's a
know,
fact.
but I'm not scared to be selfish. And that's what I learned through all of those situations, learning how to be within darkness, but not let yourself fall, not letting yourself fall all the way.
Yes, sir. And I love the way you explain that because I know we've talked in private a lot about how you kind of embody this heart-based stoicism that has a lot to do
Yeah,
with understanding the different aspects of duality and not getting attached to them, but using them to your advantage. So I want to
exactly.
ask you to give some wisdom on how being more ruthless or detaching from your emotions has actually helped you align with your spirit.
A lot actually. My spirit and my spirit team is very stoic in the way that they treat me. They honestly, a lot of times they talk to me in a very degrading manner. They talk to me in a very demeaning manner a lot of times. And it's something that, I try to talk to other spiritual people about and they're like, "Oh, those are trickster spirits. That's not your spirit guides." But, you know, these are the beings who stood by my side, period, like through everything. Like I started to tap in with them around the time I was like 19. And although they do kind of rough me up a little bit mentally, they're the ones who protect me from a lot of the bullshit that I get myself into. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah,
they may speak to me in a certain type of way, but at the end of the day, it comes from a true place. Like you don't need to be doing this, do that instead.
yeah,
Um, so through me dealing with them through my clairaudient abilities, I've had to learn how to, not put my emotions towards certain things that people say to me. You know, it'll be a time when they may criticize me in a rude way, and I just have to take it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, why would I let my emotional state change because of some shit that somebody else said? So
that's a
since
fact.
I've dealt with that on a spiritual level and I've gotten that mental fortitude training, nobody could fuck with me. Like no human could get to me. Period. Nobody could get me out of my element. Um,
Yes, sir.
so learning how to control your emotions and not be, easily changed by your environment, that is super, super important.
Yes, sir. I love the way you explain that too, because certain beings can communicate with you in a certain type of way, and it would be considered like a
Yeah.
trickster spirit or a being that's not benevolent, right? But being that you're at Aries and you carry this like warlike fire energy, it's almost
Hmm.
like you're meant to work with certain beings that are going to be rough with you and but are still going to show you softness and protect you at certain
Yeah.
points in time, or whenever it is that you need it, because you're meant to have this like warlike mentality, and also
Exactly.
still be cared for and provided for. So for you, that's what works. For someone like me, I'm a Gemini. I have a much more airy and free flowing mindset. If someone is in my head berating me all day, that would more so piss me off. It wouldn't really contribute to my
Hmm.
growth. So for me,
Yeah.
that wouldn't work. And my guys are a lot more free flowing. They drop certain things in my mind real quick and they let me kind of dominate my mental space. because they've like formed my mind in such a way that I can do that. But for you, you more so need this warlike mentality, and that
I
brings
do.
that warlike mentality that you have inside of yourself, that you're able to kind of dominate that energy inside of your mental space. So I see for sure.
Yeah, and that's something that I really had to learn how to adopt as well, that warlike mentality, because I grew up very soft. I was raised by my mother.
Hmm.
Um, but there was a lot of structure in my household. So when I eventually did get a father figure, I was able to have an example of true, you know, unwavering masculine nature, somebody who is not easily moved. Then when it came to the point of my spiritual awakening and I'm dealing with certain spirit guides, they actually treat me like I'm a soldier. They call me a general. They're like, nigga, like you're a general. You're above that shit.
Yeah,
Like, why are you even getting upset with certain things, you're a leader. You don't need to be involved in these certain activities.
yeah,
Um, and sometimes they use strong language, and that's like being in the military. You know what I'm saying? They get all up in your face, they spit on you. You know what I'm saying? They yell at you, "Ten hut,
yeah.
soldier." You know what I'm saying? Like they just be doing whatever.
Yes, sir.
And you got to take that shit. You know what I'm saying? You got to take that shit. Like if you even crack a smile or a smirk, like you got 150,000 push-ups. You feel me? You got to run 20 miles. So it's like that's really how my spirit treats me or treats me. It's not necessarily something that I like, but it's something that I needed. And I become way, way better for that. I'm much more of a strong man for that. And I'm much more in my divine masculine because of that.
Yes, sir. I want to ask you also. I was gonna be my last question for you, bro, because you're giving us some gems right now. Um, how have you been able to become comfortable with that warlike mentality or warlike treatment from the different beings that you work with, and also still have the love and compassion for them at the same time?
Nigga, I'm not comfortable. That's the point.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, the whole
But
point is
well,
not
even
being comfortable.
even then, how have you become comfortable with that uncomfortability?
I haven't. It's like a
Uh,
constant, like it's a
Oh, I
constant
see. I
struggle
see.
for
I
me.
see.
It's a
So you just
constant
reached a
struggle
point
for
of
me.
acceptance. You reached a point of
Exactly.
acceptance with it.
It's a point of
Okay.
acceptance and knowing that my guys love me at the end of the day, and they have never steered me wrong. You feel me? Never.
Yeah.
If they did steer me wrong, it's because it was something that I wanted to do, and they were like, "Shit, do it. See what happens."
Yes,
Um,
sir.
you guys can't save you from everything, so you have to learn how to save yourself a lot of times. Especially in my case, um, they're training me to be to the point where I don't need them anymore. That's the whole point of me having spirit guides. Um, you know, I'm supposed to be the spirit guide.
That's a fact. You're supposed to embody your higher self. I like to say that a lot. That's really the
Exactly.
point. So you don't need them. That's what they're trying to get you to do. But you're meant to be the general. And thank you for that perspective and kind of giving us an alternate perspective of what it is like to commune with spirits. Because some people think it's all roses and cream puffs, and it's not always like that.
It's definitely not, bro. Like, bro, the universe is it's a very, I don't want to say it's a dark place, but it can be. And this is why we do the work. You feel me? Because we want to make our experience more grounded and balanced instead of entering periods where everything is peachy cream and then, you can't stay peachy cream forever. Shit is going to fall out into destruction and chaos eventually. So, you want to have a more balanced experience where you're dealing with uncomfortability, but it's not too much to where you can't enjoy your life. That's the essence of stoicism, being uncomfortable, but being okay through that discomfort so that you can avoid ultimate misfortune.
Yes, sir. Kind of like Z said, leading yourself. Thank you for that perspective, bro. We got my man's Professor X, the general. Respect and love to you, bro.
Yes, sir.
Of course. Next, we're going to go to Sunny. What is one experience that you want to share with us, or one confession you want to share with us that has shown you a new perspective on your journey, or shown you a certain aspect of a spiritual truth that you would not experience before?
So there was some things I had in mind before this, but also while X was talking, it reminded me when he mentioned about duality and balancing the light and dark. Um, it reminded me of things that I was doing in the past. For example, when it comes to justice and how I fight for justice and how I aim to get justice, not just for myself, but for many others. And I used to do it through advocating for others who weren't able to advocate for themselves. And, I would do this through like protesting and stuff, but it got to a point where like I would get so like become so enraged by injustices that I'm willing to go above and beyond and like allegedly do things that aren't lawful, right? Um, just to get that justice. And I've been arrested before and gone through that whole process, going to court and then, threatening me with calling me a terrorist and stuff. I've been through all of that. But I've learned, even through it all, that since I've awoken, because I was awakening in the midst, like in the middle of me kind of like exiting that life, because I was still going to court and stuff, but I was still kind of showing up to the events that were going on. But I was also waking up slightly and like tapping into like, other teachers and stuff online. I started learning like as I transitioned out of that, I am meant to, yes, get justed and justed, not justed, justice, um, the right way, right? The more through spirituality, because everything is actually, this is all spiritual warfare. What's going on? Yes, there's things happening in the physical, but it's very much influenced spiritually behind the scenes, where malevolence is in control of a lot of the wars and things going on right now, and the injustices that have happened in the past, present, and any in the future. So I've learned to calm my anger, my rage, and apply it accordingly in a way that it's that anger and rage is transmuted through my heart. And the heart is a big part of my healing because, there's past life events and things like that. Like my heart has been greatly pulled on and it's been strained. And without that being healthy and strong enough, trying to transmute all of that anger and rage and need for justice in a positive way is a struggle. So it comes out like dilapidated and it's not fully transmuted. And there's still like remnants and residue left over of the anger and rage. And it gets stuck inside of my body and there's nowhere else to put it. And it feels repressed and it feels like it needs to get out. So that turns into an explosion when it comes to injustices. And it's almost borderline, like it used to get me to the point where I started feeling hateful towards the one inflicting trauma, the ones inflicting injustices. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to pause right there and like take it back and not do it in a hateful manner, but do it more so like, yes, this moves me. This is an injustice and it's normal to feel enraged, because if one is not feeling enraged at these things, that's a little bit of a red flag, right? But it's like, what do we do with that rage is what really matters. And as I've simultaneously been learning that and healing my heart, I feel so much more at ease and more at peace, where I can actually initiate some justice magically, spiritually, and doing it through the angels, doing it through the orishas, doing it through my benevolent ancestors, my spirit guides, doing it through all of my star families, the ETs, all of them. They give me the blueprint of how to do it divinely and more effectively. Like, yes, doing things physically, going out in the streets, putting your voice out there and like taking action is super effective, but we also need the spiritual side. So,
Exactly.
for
Every
any,
single time.
yeah. And so, for the people who are out there now, who are on the front line physically, like activists, like really the out there, those people are meant to be there. We need that. My life doing that, that part of me is over. Now I take what I've learned from that and I apply it to a higher version of myself and transmute it into a higher action, which is way more potent and effective. So now this like, yeah, there's people out there, but I'm also one of the people behind the scenes spiritually, just pushing the momentum behind those people and like solidifying things or like just supporting them spiritually. Because a lot of these people on the ground, they're very angry. It's tunnel vision. They see injustice here, we're coming in hot. We're coming in with our goggles, our helmets, everything. They want to throw tear gas at us. We'll throw it right back at them. They want to get violent. We'll get violent right back. You know, they need spiritual love. They need that to be covered in some way and protected, because without that action, these injustices get away. Whoever's enacting the injustice get away with it. So yeah, and even when I had neighbors who were doing some weird stuff, like magically, like dark, like negative magic towards my family, like trying to leave stuff at my house. And
Mhm.
honestly, they started doing stuff to me and my family before they didn't even know what my spirituality was or anything. I feel like there's some transphobic undertones coming from them. Because I didn't interact with them or say anything to them. They just started putting stuff on my property. And I would catch who it is and I would throw it back at them. But it got to a point where I was so enraged and I'm like, F these people. Like, you know, I feel like we could save this part of the story for another time, like the deeper details. But when I went through a
Yeah.
psychosis for a short period, I was seeing the shit they were doing and it was pissing me off. And I wasn't I wasn't as spiritually clean at that point. Like I was just starting and I still had so much crap going on inside of me. And like, it was like 20, 30 degrees. And 7 a.m., I went outside barefoot with a t-shirt and just some pants rolled up. And I started speaking in tongues and like yelling at all the neighbors who I saw come out. And I was chasing them and they were running in their houses. So I'm like, but it wasn't just any neighbor. It was some neighbors who I knew. I'm like, I know what you've been doing. And even today,
Oh.
my team confirms it. Like they did what you saw them doing. It's just you went off the rails, right? So I
Yeah.
didn't apply my rage accordingly.
And
And
I want to
that
kind
set
of get
me.
into that. I want to kind of get into the aspect of it. How do you now, like knowing all these different things and going through all these different experiences, how do you now channel your rage or this fire energy into like healing or using it to remove the impurities from a certain situation? Because of course, as we know, fire it can be destructive and it can destroy things,
Mhm.
but in its most benevolent form, it's used to destroy impurities and leave things in a more refined form. So I want to ask you, how have you kind of done that inside of your life using these different experiences and knowing how your energy affects the environment and how you can best use it to transmute through your heart, like you said?
So for example, I would do things more so I wouldn't point things at them. I wouldn't go and create a target. I mean, what helps me a lot is like my spiritual routines that I keep up with consistently on a regular basis. That's one thing that helps. Like one of the main things that helps is me keeping up with my spirit and my ancestors, because they are the foundation for everything. And they I keep all benevolent beings around me. I
Mm.
ask them to stay close to me and keep me close to them all the time. Don't let anything come close to me. Don't let anything influence me. And I ask them to show me how can I get justice or how can I go things about things differently. And then they'll show me, do it this way, do it that way. But one of the ways I do it is I'll I could put my protection work up and it's not pointed at anyone, or they wanna litter and cut down a tree. I go outside and like I'll meditate and send out like signals or light waves strictly to keep those energies that want to influence like destruction of nature out here away. So there's things I would do on the side where it's like I'm not directly pointing at somebody. Um, I'm just I'm doing things that prevents
Improve the
them.
environment. It's for the good of
Yeah,
the energetic space. And I kind of want to go into
yeah.
that as well. How do you use these situations and these different energies in order to protect not only your property, but kind of like your neighborhood? Because you're kind of like the shadow warrior in the neighborhood. I know you
Mhm.
deal with a lot of different situations. So how do you best keep yourself in a more light based energy to make sure that you're always in the state to transmute these more darker or malevolent interactions into higher versions of those
Oh,
situations.
I stay in my sanctuary at home, right? So I go out, but my spirit, they like, remember you were talking about house arrest the other day? They've had me
Yeah,
on house arrest since like 2024, 2023.
I
And,
see.
um, but I still go out when I need to, or, recently they started having like, oh, go for a walk. Or yesterday I went and hung out with one of the members in our community, right? She lives
Yes,
so close, right? I was with Siddharthia. Um, but like, they have me going out and like, just interacting with people who work at places, right? Like I walk into the bagel shop, they're like, "Hey, what up?" And they call my name and everything. I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." Like just like one, the interactions with certain people, they want to show me like there are positive interactions
hmm
and positive people in the neighborhood. It's just like it's like the overall energy is not great, but there's people within there that who don't resonate with it. So
yeah. There's hidden
it
gems in there.
Yeah, so it kind of opens me up to it to not feel jaded about the whole like neighborhood as a, entirely. So it keeps me balanced in that. And like I do my routines, like I meditate, I I keep up with my orishas with my altars, I do my spiritual baths, I have my own, routines I do where I give offerings to my own ori, which is my crown, my consciousness, my higher self, my third eye. I go to I go to Zigong class. Like I do things like that. Like that should be
Yes, sir.
helping me
Shout out
a
to Z going.
lot, right? I sit under the fig tree. I'm like nearly leaving my body when I sit under the fig tree, meditating, and I ground. So there's just a bunch of practices I do for myself, self care, spiritually and physically, that helps me conditions my spiritual muscles and be able to go out and keep myself anchored and grounded.
Most
Hope that
definitely.
answered the question because I kind of went slightly off tangent a little bit, I think.
Oh, it most definitely did because it's showing us how you make sure you anchor yourself into your environment through doing all that work. And even doing some good work by linking up with one of our family members to GFCC Discord. Of course, we love to hear about things like
Hmm.
that. So I'm grateful that you give us that perspective, and also that you're kind of out here handling some of the darker energies. Burning them up with your fire and turning them into
Yeah.
more useful aspects of themselves. Shout out to Sonny.
Yeah. It's like I have like a trap where like those energies try to come in and I'm like, oh, peekaboo. You just went into my trap that I set up. Uh,
Yep.
and like yesterday when I still went with Siddharthia, we've had very divine experiences or divine timing. And there's a place, my spirit's like, we were going to go to a place, and spirit was telling me, no, 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 you're going to this place. Go to this place to eat. And we're like, okay. We went to this place to eat, and we met a man who actually went viral on Instagram. He was working there, and he was using his voice to speak against injustices with Palestine and the Israel stuff, the occupation and the genocide. And
Mhm.
I was wearing a Palestine shirt, and he approached me. He's like, "Yo, I love your shirt." I was like, "Yeah, free Palestine, let's go." And he was like, "Have you seen this video?" And he showed me, and I'm like, "Oh my God, is that you?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he and I got into this whole conversation, me, him, and Siddharthia, and we connected on Instagram, and like we follow each other. And my team was telling me like he's gonna reach out to you. So I see this as even me going out and like not gathering people like I'm like on the hunt to like create a cult or
Yeah.
anything. It's more like just going out and just allowing people to attract to me who are meant to attract to me and who I'm meant to connect with in the future, because something very meaningful is going to happen from that. Like it's very
Most
intentional.
definitely. Most definitely. That interaction is going to breed a lot of fruits for you, is what I'm hearing. So I'm looking to
Mhm.
see, I look forward to see what happens with that. And I look forward to see you become so much more prominent through this new journey that you're embarking on, bro. Shout out to you.
Yeah, shout out to you and all of us here because we're doing it. We're doing it in each in our own unique ways.
Most definitely. I look to see the way that you're doing it. And we're gonna get into the way we're gonna get into the way that Amrita got here. I want to ask Amrita this question as well. Amrita, what is one experience that changed your perspective, or one experience where you experienced a spiritual truth that you really didn't fully understand before.
So I wanted to talk about a situation that a lot of us spiritual people can get into when we see the good and the potential in people without seeing if they're willing to do the work to
But
achieve the potential. So when I was like, I think 2 or 3 years into my spiritual journey, I was like seeing the benefits of all of the work that I was putting in to myself. But I still lived around people, and well, I still do, but back then it was worse. But I lived around people that were like still in the generational trauma loops and the karmic patterns and everything.
Mhm.
So I decided like I wanted to help people. This was also when I was on house arrest a lot. So like I was just trying to help people, you know. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to like when they are open to having conversations, I'm gonna like plant the seeds for them. But I was
Yeah.
planting seeds, but I was doing it in a way where they couldn't fathom every single like point that I was trying to make.
Hmm.
So me trying to change them was like it basically made me extend my own energy and I started losing myself in trying to be there for them. And then over time through that experience, I realized that I had told myself that I was trying to help them because I just wanted to help them to change and be better. But in truth, what I realized was I was trying to change them so that they could meet the needs that I wanted them to meet for myself, that they never could.
Yeah.
So that experience really it made me realize how we control things without even realizing it sometimes.
Hmm.
And it just made me focus on myself and stop trying to control so much and letting other people be themselves and be in the energy while respecting their own journey and the patterns that they have to go through.
I love that you said that because in allowing people to be, you're actually putting more power in your own hands because you're looking to yourself for fulfillment and the sense of control because all you can control is you. And you start to see that reflection in your reality. And I love how you put that. I want to
Yeah.
ask you, I want to ask you one more question when it comes to that. How have you maintained that resilience when it comes to blocking out energies and just planting seeds of ascension where it's needed so that you can maintain the progress that you've made to this point?
A lot of the time I just listen to my intuition
Mhm.
and now I'm like pretty like I live with these people so I know like what they can digest and what will
Yeah,
just go over their heads. So like
yeah,
I don't even if it does go over their head, like why would I waste my time even saying that? So
for
I
sure.
just like say what I know they can take in and not like completely cripple their reality or
Hmm.
like have them project their own beliefs onto me.
Most definitely. And really keeping your mind or your fortress, I like to call it, um, locked up and not allowing any energies that don't serve you to get into or infiltrate your mental body. I love to hear that. And thank you for that perspective.
Hmm.
I'm gonna allow myself to share um my experience with the spiritual truth of ungroundedness. A lot of times people talk about when you're too much into your higher chakras and not grounded enough onto the earth. There's a term that's like too heavenly bound and not earthly focused enough. I believe it is. It's something like that. Don't quote me. But I very much experienced that myself when I first started to get into my abilities with my third eye. And I was very interested in that. It was a big theme for me throughout my whole life. Whenever I heard about the third eye, people would talk about how scary it was. People would talk about how they saw different beings. People would talk about intuition, all these different things, astral projection. You hear so many different things about it. And when I finally got into my spiritual journey, and I would say this was about 2 years ago, I was kind of like obsessed with opening it and really like seeing what it was that was inside of there for me because I thought I would see different things, like different beings and things like that, and I was interested in that. But in reality, I was starting to see the truth of my life and what was around me and the timeline that I was on because I was constantly working on that, and I started to get these different visions of my future But little did I know it wasn't a future that I actually wanted to experience. So because I started to get these visions of me in this different place, living in this different state, being with this different girl, 'cause I was single at the time as well. So I got very, very excited, and I started almost like chasing after this future that I saw was possible, and foregoing the foundation that I had at home, which also kind of soured my relationship with my family and kind of made me take on certain perspectives that weren't fully true, but also weren't fully wrong at the same time. So when I kind of took this trip and I moved away and I actually ended up living out this timeline, I went through a lot of pain. I went through a lot of struggle, which really built up my fire energy, my earth energy, and helped me to understand the different dynamics that can exist inside a house, understand the different dynamics that can exist inside of a relationship, and really kind of took me through this like dark castle arc where I learned everything I would need in order to be in this like king energy from a shadow perspective. But I went through so much pain and I kind of just jumped off the ground in the sense that it was a very dualistic experience for me because it's like, yes, I grew a lot spiritually from that experience and what I saw was real. What I saw was not of my highest good, and I wasn't fully grounded in myself enough to actually discern between what I could see and what my willpower was pushing me towards because of what I was currently experiencing versus what was actually in my highest good. Because I started to actually perceive the timeline I'm living now, where I was collaborating, I was doing podcasts, I was doing readings for people, I was making content full time. But I thought that time it was supposed to happen like a year ago, so I was making certain choices based upon an ungrounded reality and almost living in a fake, almost living in a fake version of my life. And I feel like it's very important for us to speak about certain things like this because a lot of people have these psychic abilities. A lot of people have these different perceptions of their journey and the path that they're on. But we are so powerful. Sometimes we can trick ourselves and make ourselves believe certain things that aren't necessarily true, or they could be true, but they're not for our highest good. So I feel like it's very important for us all to know that yes, we have the ability to perceive different timelines, the ability to perceive the future, the ability to influence any outcome that we want, but it's very important that we move from the heart predominantly because the heart is what is going to lead us to what is actually meant for us to experience rather than what we feel like we want to do based upon what we can perceive inside of our mind.
Discernment, big key.
Yes, exactly. Discernment is very big.
I also relate to what you experienced too in terms of like knowing what you're meant to do, but like
Mhm.
being a year ahead of that. Like,
Yeah,
okay, like I was like trying to get into the stuff I'm doing right now
yeah,
last year and the year before, and I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to do it then. I knew I was supposed to do it though, you know.
yeah. It's like you
And
just want to get ahead on this plan that you see for yourself and this milestone you see yourself achieving, but you're just not fully there yet.
and any attempt I made, it failed, and I was like, "Why are you doing this to me?"
Hmm.
Little did I know it wasn't time. And I went through that. I was like, you guys are lying to me. Like, why would you lie to me? Like, why would you tell me I'm meant to do this and you're not letting me do it? But I didn't know that back then.
Yep. And the that's another thing too. A lot of the information I was getting was not for the period of time I thought it was. It was for the future. And time
Hmm.
is not linear inside of these higher planes. So when you're getting these different inklings, all this different information, it might not be when you think it's supposed to be. It might
Hmm.
be for a future event. It might be something that you're going to pivot to after a certain event happens. So you really need to trust divine timing as well, and that's also what I learned from my experience is the concept of divine timing and really understanding these things are going to unfold when they're meant to unfold. Just because I know about it does not mean it's within my control for this event to start right now.
Yeah, exactly. And they want to put us in awareness of that so we can be prepared. Like, okay,
Yeah,
get the
it's a
ball rolling
preparation thing.
in our minds, like prepare in our minds and see like show us like, hey, this is where you're gonna be. Start
Hmm.
preparing for it. So it
Hmm.
helps the journey of healing and like, getting your shit together so much more impactful and meaningful. Because what if we didn't know what we were going to get into, right? It almost feels like, well, what do we look forward to? What direction, what are we what seeds are we planting now? Because am I gonna grow avocados or am I gonna grow apples? Like, which one is
Yeah.
it? Because you're telling me it's not both, but which one is it, right? So it's like they give us the little drop in hints. And, you know, I also wanted to say for all of us here, like, the big key to this is of what how we're here now in this position we're in. Um, Accountability is, I feel like, the one of the biggest keys here, because when we take accountability in ourselves and make corrections and changes, we end up in higher places. So
That's fair.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's a fact. Because you're transmuting that into a higher timeline. I talk about this all the time.
Mhm.
Really taking that energy and turning it into what you want it to be, rather than what it is showing you or telling you that it is.
Yeah, exactly.
100%, bro.
Hmm.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for y'all perspectives on these different shifts in your life and really experiencing the different principles of the creation that we live inside of. Now we're going
Oh
to go
yeah.
into our anonymous segment coming from one of our members inside the GFCC Discord. She left a response of her own about different things that she's experienced inside of her life, which I'm going to read off for y'all. I was living my life based on what happened to me. I built my character based on how others viewed me and was heading towards a future others saw me in. When I had my spiritual awakening, I let go of everyone. I was expecting a big depression or breakdown. For the first time in my life, I wasn't under pressure. There was no one holding me back or pushing me in different directions. It was just me with nothing and no one. Instead of feeling lost, I finally felt free. I built myself up to the person I am today, and I keep growing. I realized that I cannot control how people see me or what happened to me in my life, but I have a choice. I can choose to let reality shape my thoughts or let my thoughts shape reality, and I choose the second option. That is so powerful.
It's beautiful.
Mhm.
So powerful. Sovereignty, self sovereignty, self
Mhm.
accountability, self respect, self love.
Most
That's,
definitely.
yeah, everything.
Sonny, I
So
want to let you
liberating.
go first. Yeah, I want to let you go first if you want to go into this anonymous response and kind of give your take on it.
Yeah. Based off, adding to what I just said, yeah,
Hmm.
pretty much like you're taking control of your own life, and
Hmm.
you're also not caring what other people think, what other people say. You're not carrying their words or their own limitations. You're not carrying their shadows. You got your own to deal with. You're not carrying anything of theirs, even if it's not shadows. It's just what belongs to you belongs to you. And the fact that you're showing that you want to put your foot down and take matters into your own hands is a big deal, because spirit sees that, the universe sees that, and the universe is going to respond to you based off
Mhm.
that. And you're going to be blessed with so much love and abundance. You're clearing the crap that doesn't serve you, so you can make room, make space for what does serve you. And yeah, you're really stepping into your own divine power, and I see where you're going with it. And with all of the things that you are going to pursue, you will achieve. Keep those boundaries up and keep your heart up.
Yes, sir.
That's
Like I
it.
said, you got to stay in that heart chakra and make sure you're staying aligned with your highest timeline. And
Hmm.
what I remember here, what she was speaking on, very much aligns with that. She had nothing and no one, and she just aligned with her heart and connected to her spirit and achieved everything that she needed to achieve.
Hmm. Letting go.
Most definitely that surrender energy. I want to ask Z. Z, what can you say about that surrender energy?
I love that question. So the first thing that comes to mind is a lot of us are preconditioned into thinking that our worth and our value is based on anything outside of ourselves, right? Meaning whether you got a car, you got a job, whether you got status, you got a certain friend group. A lot of times we're taught that who we should be it should be based upon how others see us, right? But the thing is, when we are in this physical world, everything is finite, right? Everything has a beginning and an ending. Everything has it's on this cynical timing of, okay, there's an expiration date to this at some point. But when we lose everything, your sense of value, your sense of worth that was tied to that also goes away. So you're kind of like forced into going within and asking yourself, okay, what is truly valuable then? How is it that we're placing so much value on these physical things, but how is it really valuable? How does it hold so much value? And you start to ask yourself, okay, then perhaps the spirit aspect of ourselves is the true value. And that's why the physical reality is as value as it is because we're the ones giving it value. We give meaning to everything. That's a part of the experience. We, in terms of words, of languages, of how we perceive certain experiences, we are the ones defining everything, whether you want to believe that or not, right? Even in terms of if you are not fully in your power and you're allowing other people to dictate how you see things and how you view things and perceive things, you're still kind of like allowing yourself to see it through that way, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes 100% sense or if I broke that down enough. But I've experienced that quite a bit in my lifetime. Actually, like my very first spiritual awakening, I went through a very similar thing where I had it all. I had all the things that people said that, oh, if you want to feel fulfilled or feel like you're super independent and you need to have the job, the friends, the car, your own place. I had all that. I had it all, the money. I had it all, but yet I still felt unfulfilled. And when I lost it all, I was forced to actually ask myself, what truly brings you fulfillment in life? Like, what is your, like, what is you kind of like your sense of purpose becomes a huge question for yourself. Your sense of why are you existing? Why are you specifically here at this moment, living on earth right now? What is it that, why is it that I'm here? Right? You just get those questions. I feel like, all of us may resonate with that. When it comes to our spiritual awakening, we start questioning our existence, right? And what we truly value and how we want to operate when it comes to this finite experience, this temporary experience. And uh, I like that question a lot because I feel like so many people feel like, once they accomplish something, once they get a certain level of status, once they get a house, and this is not to downplay the physical material things because it's very important for us to have those things. And but there's a complete difference between you placing your value because you have a house versus you knowing that regardless if you have the house or not, that you are still valuable. And I think that's like the whole point about this experience, being able to still express yourself in this physical incarnation, but knowing that if all of it was to go away, if all of it was to be stripped from you, you are still a valuable, abundant person. And it has nothing to do with the physical world. You feel me? So like, yeah.
Yes, sir, bro. Thank you for the perspective because that's exactly what it's all about. And understanding that you are the value and all the channels that you do, that you perceive the value coming from, or that you perceive, or that you're receiving that recognition from are just reflections of yourself. And that's a very, very important principle for us all to understand because we create the value, we create the energy, and we create the different platforms and channels for us to receive those things. And in order for us to receive in such a way, we need to be steadfast and stand in ourselves in such a sovereign way and stand inside of our heart and also be able to surrender to creation so that we can allow that energy to flow in and almost support us while we support creation in a way. Next, I want to go to X.
So, to be honest, Z already said everything that I was finna say. I'm not gonna lie. I like how she brought it back to like the spirit and how that's the most foundational and primordial aspect of ourselves. So when everything else goes away, that's all we have to fall back on. And you could either accept that or you can reject it, And for our anonymous member, it seems like they accepted it. They fell back on the fact that they are all they have. And that is not a bad thing. That is a beautiful thing when you realize how all encompassing your true nature is. Originally, before you asked any questions, I was very drawn to the part of her reading when she said, um, I was expecting a big depression or breakdown, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't under pressure. Immediately, like I thought surrender, you know what I'm saying? And that's a very powerful thing when you can accept that and let everything go and go through that phase of not worrying or not caring about anything, but then taking that lesson and then applying it back to structure, applying it back to, action, it's a super powerful thing.
Yes, sir, because you're able to transmute that experience into a tangible, like you said, tangible action, a tangible direction, or a tangible timeline that can actually improve your life and help you in the future. Um, when we go through certain shifts and certain changes, it doesn't always have to make us sad. It doesn't always have to produce this big depressive episode. Sometimes it's just about understanding this is the change that needed to happen at this time, and this is actually what's best for us. And that's really what our anonymous member decided to do. So shout out to her.
Facts.
We're gonna go to Amrita. Amrita, how are you feeling about this? What is your perspective on it? Do you have any wisdom for our member here?
I actually love this response because it shows how she really detached from all of the stories of her character and let it go and just accepted that she doesn't know fully who she is right now and she's going to embrace it while finding out what truly fulfills her. And this actually really reminds me of something that my sister went through recently. She was in a similar place with the beginning of what the member talked about, with like having all of her self, having her whole self identity built on what others wanted from her and what they expected from her. So she didn't fully even know who she was. But recently she stepped more into who she wants to be, and she's letting go of all of the subconscious beliefs of who her identity has been shaped into since she was younger.
Shout out to your sister because that's very valuable in stepping out from under the shadow that others try to cast onto you or the timeline that they try to tie you to because of even someone else's actions, someone that might have nothing to do with the situation at all. So I want to
Mhm.
shout out to her and also I love the way you put that because it's very important for us all to understand that we are not bound by anything unless we allow ourselves to be bound to it. And that includes, and I should say, this is the most important aspect of that comes to other people and their expectations. The only reason a lot of people are affected by those things is because you kind of care or feel like you have to embody a certain aspect of yourself to make that person happy, or people pleasing, to say simply, like a lot of people like to say. And
Mhm.
honestly, there's no need to people please because as long as you're embodying your authentic energy and being yourself and expressing your heart energy in the most divine way that you can, that's really all that matters. And embodying the part of yourself that you truly want to be is what puts you in that type of energy because you're expressing yourself from your heart, what you love to do with complete authenticity. And that's the type of people and the type of vibrations that we need inside the planet at this point in time.
Exactly. That's what's most important.
That's a fact. I'll kind of leave it there unless you guys have anything else to say. I appreciate y'all pulling up to the podcast today. Shout out to our anonymous member for leaving us that response. And I love to hear about all you guys' different experiences and what you learned from them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Of course. Thank y'all for pulling up. Shout out to Sunny, shout out to Z, shout out to X, shout out to Amrita, shout out to myself. And we will catch y'all next week on the GFCC podcast. Peace.
Bless.
Peace out.